All right. Welcome. We are back to another episode of Knicks Morning Koffee. Today, I kind of switched gears today on what I was going to talk about because there's been so much in the media this week about the draft and kind of it's been a little fun because when I started hearing that a lot of the top teams are considering moving down. So we kind of touched on that a little bit 2 or 3 weeks ago about trading down, but we were just talking about the Knicks. But now we're starting to hear that some of the top 1, 2, 3, and possibly 4 picks in the draft, those teams are thinking about trading down. So now, the Knicks, you got to now try to think, what would you do and what are you going to do? Because if these teams are all starting to think about trading down, who's available? Who's really worth picking at number 1? So if there's no clear-cut favorite that nobody wants, what kind of draft do we have? So what I did this week, I started going back and looking at a whole lot of the players coming out of college again. I said, let me just dive in a little bit deeper. First in some of the players that I like, and then, we didn't have March Madness, so we didn't get to see them under pressure. And really so, without March Madness, that was good for me because one thing I was always tired of with the Knicks sometimes too is we'll draft somebody just because they had a great tournament in March Madness, and then you go back and look at their body of work in their year or two that they spent in college. They didn't really do that much. But sometimes you get hot, during March Madness, and all of a sudden your stock rises, and then when the team picks you up, you're not the same player in training camp. So if no teams are really considering a number 1 pick and trading down their pick, my first thing I like for the Knicks to do is just stand pat. Keep your 8th pick, take the best player available. But then, we know the Knicks will they or won't they do that. So, just for the sake of having fun, because at this point now, nobody don't know what they're going to do. So everything, it was speculation before, but now it's exaggerating speculation because if teams are thinking about trading down and they got the number 1 and 2, 3 picks, then nobody clearly knows what's going to happen. So in my case, I just trying to look at some of the things that the Knicks could do, with their picks. Now, mind you, too, we also have the 27th pick in the first round, and then I think it's the 38th pick in the second round. So me, I take best player available. You wouldn't know who that's going to be because you don't know what kind of trades people are going to make. So even when you put up your own draft board now, if teams put up their top 5 players and then just select them as they, are available, you don't know what that's going to be because right up until draft night, trades can be made. So for me, for the Knicks, somebody who probably would have been there, who I said I liked before at number 8, I would consider Kyra Lewis, the speedy point guard, that I said kind of reminds me of John Morant. So, okay, that still leaves us with a lot of point guards, and I don't know if he solves all our problems, but we actually could plug him in right away, and he can do a serviceable job of getting up and down the court. Not getting people involved and, all that can be worked on, but he's a speedy kind of guard, that the Knicks need because we need somebody that can penetrate and get into the lane. And then I would say, because there's so many other people after that when you get later in the rounds, and that's what I said when I went back and started looking at a whole lot of the players. And then I started, thinking about this kid. Somebody mentioned him just the other night too, and I always liked him, Sadiq Bey out of Villanova. So now that's a good later round pick that can help you right away. So a guy like that, now would he be there at 27? I doubt it, but hey, could you package off your 27th and 38th pick to move up and take a Sadiq Bey or somebody like that? Or
I got a here's a fan question right here.
Okay.
So now I looked at a post and it had Anthony Edwards. Now we already got a bunch of guards, right? For now to make fans happy and to make Knicks fans happy, I think we probably could go grab Anthony Edwards and we got all the rest of these other picks, and we got all these rest of these guards, we could just trade up for the pieces we actually are missing. Because we can't use all these guards anyway. And they clearly look like they're willing to trade half of these guards anyway. So we could probably just go get the fresh new guard, keep one of our veteran guards, and let go of the rest of the guards. And we still got these later picks. So I really feel like the ball's in our court right now. Like, we can do anything we want right now. Because teams are unsure. People are opting out of contracts. We got a lot of, but to make fans happy, not kind of like Anthony Edwards. After watching his highlights,
Yeah, everybody like Anthony Edwards.
I hope he's available because they can make that move. They're not going to solve our problems, but at least now there's teams that got too many forwards that we can actually go get.
All right, so that's good, but let's go back for a second because the only thing with that is, you could move. If we were at 8, then I say, the reason why I say stay at 8. Because, of course, you can look at what teams are going to do and you can jump ship and then move up and get the player you want. Now, I would move up in my later rounds. But if somebody's giving you their first, second pick, they don't just want your 8th pick and a so-called bum player.
Mm.
They're going to want more. So how much are you willing to give up to move up? If it was that simple to say, okay, you give me your 1 or 2, I give you my 8, but then they're going to want your draft picks this year. They're going to probably want your draft pick next year, and they're going to want one of your star players. Like, they're going to want a R.J. Barrett or Mitchell Robinson. So that kind of addition by subtraction, I just don't feel that. And teams definitely will try to pull the trigger on that. Because even though there's no clear number 1, it's still the number 1 pick. It's still the number 2 pick. So if you're going to move up, what are you giving up? And they actually been talking about the Knicks moving up with Golden State in the past week.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's out there. But if you can move up to 2, and then, okay, who you want? You want him? Do you want Ball?
I don't want Ball.
Right, but whoever you get, look what you giving up. That's the thing.
So Ball is just hype.
Yeah, I mean, but his upside is big.
Yeah,
I mean, I could take him. I could take him and leave him because he got a big ceiling. But if they don't get Ball, I can live with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't really got the pieces around right now anyway for the type of game that Ball has to play to make up for his mistakes.
Mm.
So going back, then we could package off our other 2 picks and move down a little bit and get somebody. But the way this thing is going now, you're going to get, as far as this draft, you're going to get a good player available in this draft at 8. Because you still got to look at this year. Not much is going to be happening this year. Again, unless teams just drastically make trades to cut salary. And then do you want to take on somebody else's salary?
Mm.
Teams are going to stand pat until next year. So the salary cap is way in flux. It's not going to get any better for this year. We know that already. So teams are not going to be trying to lose money. So they're going to be trying to throw away, high-end players. But who's going to take them? There's only a few of us that got the money to take them.
Mm.
So don't take somebody you really don't want just for the sake, making our team look a little bit better this year. That ain't going to go nowhere. No, you're going to take somebody.
It's already going to look good, so they need to just take it slow.
Well, we actually, when I started thinking about this week, we in a win-win situation because nobody's counting on us to do anything anyway. So however they roll the dice, if they roll the dice on some high-priced veterans and we don't do good, okay, they didn't expect anything from us anyway. If they keep the young guys and bring in some more young guys and try to groom them, maybe add a veteran or 2, then we're developing. So in that sense, it's just as Knicks fans, lifelong Knicks fans, we just get tired of, waiting for next year. It's always next year. Same thing with our Jets. We just got rid of Le'Veon Bell. So we didn't have no hope now. It seemed like this year anyway, but now it's definitely wait till next year again. So, we get tired of that. So, Knicks can make a move. They are sitting in the driver's seat, you're right, to do whatever they want. But they can make a move to bring in pieces now that they know they like, regardless of position. Because somebody made a good point the other day. I forgot what show it was. But they was talking about with Miami when they brought in Bam. If they would have said, okay, we got Whiteside, we don't need Bam, then look what would happen. Mm-hmm. So now, looking at that, I started thinking, okay, same thing with RJ, same thing with Mitch. I don't care if the person is good enough to go that high, grab them. But grab somebody that you want. Don't grab somebody just because the media put pressure on you, and don't grab somebody just because some of the scouts, said it. Because a lot of the scouts, there's been no play, so a lot of this stuff is based on information that they had already. So teams weren't able to bring anybody in. So as far as for the Knicks, let's just get our best, player we think that can help our team and get them in. And I think Kyra Lewis can help our team. I think he can come in right now and play point guard. A lot of teams have done it. And we don't have to really wait for him to develop too much, because one thing you can't teach is speed. He got speed and ball handling. Mm-hmm. So when you got that, you could put the other stuff in. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, who was I talking to? And then they brought up, what's this dude name? Desmond Baines out of TCU. Now that's another guard, a wing. Well, he's a wing player, but he's 6'6". To me, 6'6", you a guard. But that's another player to me. Not a lot of hype about him, but who says players can't be taken early? We get all these mock drafts, but who really decides if somebody is really good or not? The mock drafts in the beginning, they tell us the first 10 picks. Okay, who decides that? So Knicks, y'all got a new scouting team. Y'all got new developmental coaches. Scrap that to me, mock draft. Forget about, for this year, I would forget about why take somebody at 8 that I could get at, let's say, 15, 16. No, if you think somebody in those early teens is a good enough player that really can help you right now, and you want to snatch, and you've done your homework, go out and get that guy. This is not the really type of year where everybody was able to evaluate talent, the way they was able to do in the past. So how many times have we seen a player that was picked number 4 or number 8, especially if that was unknown, and then you go back into, somebody that was taken at like 21, 23 that nobody really knew nothing about them, and they be star players in the league. So those players are out there. We got Mitchell Robinson in the second round a couple of years ago. So those kind of players are out there. And if you think they could really help you now, I would say just forget about what, all the scouts say in this case, and go grab the player that you want. Because, the Knicks, we have to, we're trying to change our culture. We're trying to change our brand, but we got to do other things for ourselves. Forget about what everybody's telling us. What do we want? And again, if you want the number 1 pick, then go get the number 1 pick. But do it because you want to do it. It's been a crazy week. And then think about this. Think about this. When it comes to the free agents. So they're telling us who we should take. We ain't heard nothing from the Knicks. But everybody's saying we take Chris Paul, right? Nobody's saying nothing about put your eggs together. Okay, Anthony Davis is only going to opt out because we know take a small contract for a year or so, and then when the salary cap is right, now you get that big payday you want. But who say put yourself in play for Anthony Davis? Nobody mentions that. Put yourself in play for Giannis. If Giannis is unclear about signing with them next year, do something. Let's go do something now and be in play, because Kawhi Leonard proved stranger things have happened when he left Toronto to go and get, after a championship, to go home, which is fine. But that means those things can happen. So everybody say what the Knicks should do and what we can't do. Now we brought in some people who have relationships. Let's just put our name in the hat. We don't have nobody, if we was to go after, say, Anthony Davis, just to put it out there, or Giannis, just to put it out there. We don't got nobody whose feelings could be hurt because we haven't done anything. So nobody would be hurt if their name came up in a trade rumor, which would only be a rumor anyway for one of those great players. But at least let's get in the game, because again, stranger things have happened. And the Knicks, we have to just start looking bigger because every time we say we're going to rebuild, we don't rebuild.
We don't.
First player comes available, and then you get a new coach. A new coach wants to win, keep their resume looking tight, and then all of a sudden the rebuild is scrapped. And then once we start losing, okay, we're going to go into a no. Let's get in there and develop our young guys and try to win.
We only try to rebuild with somebody that has a breakout season that might not even really be that good of a player. They just might be a great piece. So you can't rebuild with somebody you think can do it by themselves.
No. Well, you can't do it by themselves anyway. But just go back to what LeBron did when he came back to Cleveland. Forget about the championship he played in when he first left Cleveland. But when he came back to Cleveland, they were lottery. Had the number one pick 2 years in a row. Dead last. How many years after he left? He was gone 4 years. Dead last practically the whole 4 years, and he come back in 1 year, and then they're in the championship. These things can happen. They just haven't happened for us.
Well, LeBron got that respect of it's easier to make your own team in the park. It's easy for me to go, let me get about 3 shooters. Let me get one more big man, and my boy willing to leave to come play for me. It's easy to do that though.
Yeah, but when you're
a Knicks team that really don't got the players that they're gonna listen to, and Alfred Payton can't sit here and be like, all right, let me get one more big man and let me get 4 shooters because we ain't got none, and keep Damian Dotson because he might hit a couple.
All right, but look, when LeBron brought that team when he went back to Cleveland. Now I'm way off the mark now, y'all. So now it's fair game. So when he brought that team, when he came back to Cleveland. Think about, Kyrie. But again, they were dead last with Kyrie before. So who was really on that team? Like we always say, everybody want to come play with LeBron, but who really was on that team? There was really, Kevin Love was a superstar. He still was able to do what he was able to do, but they brought in a bunch of role players too to play with LeBron. Kyrie is, now he's in all-star superstar status. And not to take nothing from Kyrie, but Kyrie, his tree blossomed. You probably won't even, I don't know if you remember this, in the Olympics when Derrick Rose got hurt in the Olympic trials, and Westbrook got hurt, and then somebody else got hurt, and then all we was left with was Kyrie. Now Kyrie's a great player. I'm not trying to take that away from him, but he was not the guard in the league. So when he had that great Olympics, when they had that super team with LeBron, Melo, Durant, Wade, and all the guys. He was the point guard.
He was still just a piece.
Yeah, but that
wasn't
transformed him into superstardom in the league. And then it just went to his head. So the Knicks, y'all can get a superstar and get the right pieces around him. Kevin Love was a perennial all-star, when he went to Cleveland, when he was there with LeBron. But they don't talk about him. They just talk about LeBron and Kyrie. You take Kevin Love off that team, there's no championship, So those are the type of things that, we could do. You get somebody in here that's a star, and then you get some guys that got championship, pedigree. But this draft is not a make all, be all, but I had to take back what I said a few weeks ago about the weak draft because, and I listened to what some of the other people said, but after really going back and researching and researching guys' games, just because they don't got the big names. And there's some super players in this draft. They're not the all-star players, but you don't have to have that because where they're going to go anyway on the teams. Only a few teams of ours that don't have all-stars on it, and superstars on it. So where they're going to go anyway. But it's a whole lot of people in this draft that are unmentioned or that are in the later rounds that the Knicks can use, regardless of their name. Some really good players in this draft. So let's do our due diligence. To me, stay at 8. Don't move down. If there's a player there at 8, you take them at 8. You take your other 2 picks. There's some great players there. I won't just talk about too many guards, but, even my brother Bobby, when he talks about the one Miles Powell out of Seton Hall, prolific scorer, great later round pick, to have. So, there are people out there. There's the shooter from Vanderbilt, still that we said that Jerry Stackhouse coaches. So there's people out there that can help us. because we don't know what they're going to do with Ellington and Bullock. Those are our only shooters, So, hey.
Well, everybody put your players in the comments on who you think the Knicks can look at. Not even number one, but maybe in the later picks.
Yeah.
Or maybe should move them up.
Yeah, I mean, there was from not last week's show, the week before, Nicholas Anderson, and then thanks for your comments, past couple of weeks too. I think he had a lineup of, he had picked up Van Fleet, and then we had Van Fleet, RJ. I think it was Okoro was in that, and then Randall and Mitch. The only thing with me with Van Fleet is that why I'm not high on him is because I don't think he's a point guard, and I think a lot of his success comes from playing with Laurie. Laurie is a junkyard dog, and if you're playing alongside of him, Laurie does everything. He plays defense, he gets into the lane, he dishes out, he moves the ball around. So I just, for some reason, I just think Van Fleet, with the kind of team we got, he's a product of playing with Laurie. But again, if you had to go with a lineup like that, you could be serviceable, depending on how Cora would come in, and then what would Randall give us. So a lot of people have their their picks. Another guy who commented in, Brian Williford, he's high on Cat and pairing him with RJ and Knox, and then bringing in a Joe Harris. Now, I've been wanting Joe Harris for the past few years. Real three-point shooter. And with us, he'll get enough touches. Well, he got enough touches with the Nets when the team was down. But now with the Nets team coming back, they just got too many guard-oriented shooters that's not even going to touch the ball at all with Kyrie and KD. But, yeah, that, I like that one, too. I just don't like giving up Mitch. It just had to really be right for me to be happy to give up Mitch. But, that's not a bad one. And then there's Francis Josephus, I think if I say that right. And he had a lot of good things to say, too. But one of them in particular, almost two, made me laugh. I'm glad that somebody even remember that, was Oladipo is risky because he gets hurt. And he was comparing it to Antonio McDyess. And remember when we got Antonio McDyess, to me I thought we was like, now, okay, we on our way. Because we had McDyess, we had Mutombo, and we had Keith Van Horn. And that's
when I started watching.
That's a good front line. And then I remember I was at the game, the preseason game against San Antonio, when the crowd went crazy when McDyess dunked the ball off the rim, dunked it back in. And then a few times up and down the court, then he got hurt. So it was like all the air went out of the Garden. But it was like, you just felt like that was our time. We had a center, a defensive center. We had a small forward in Van Horn. And then you had a perennial all-star in Antonio McDyess. So it was like, wow, okay, the Knicks, we ready to rock and roll. And then that just really blew up, in our face. And then you got the Legion of Knicks podcast. I started watching that the past few weeks. Definitely jump on that because, they're really good at what they're talking about. And I think he's up there with the guy from Nothing But Knicks. But yeah, this week, one more thing before we go, and I ain't got to stay on this for a second, that I was listening to something yesterday about somebody's podcast or show that he went back and forth with Kevin Durant, that Kevin Durant just can't keep the Knicks out of his mouth for whatever reason. And then the guy was asking Kevin Durant pinpoint questions, which he dodged a lot of them, but it was, now to me, it's put to rest because it finally was out there. So that he was asking Kevin Durant, Durant was saying it's the media that was constantly putting that out there and y'all shouldn't have been falling for that. But he was asking him, did you ever really consider the Knicks? And he fumbled around with some answers, but we all know the answer to that. So to me now, I'm going to stop hating. Well, I wasn't hating on him anyway. I'm going to stop hating on Kevin Durant because I know I'm going to watch the Nets now because I can't root for them, but I'm probably going to watch them now, on TV. But it was an interesting interview that it was like finally out there, and we know the real answer, that he truly would have came to the Knicks. And whatever that stuff that happened with his injury, or he said he didn't want to be the savior to save New York, we just have to now just respect that and then move on. But, Kevin Durant, you and Kyrie, we wish y'all luck. As long as you don't beat us, I would like to see y'all in the playoffs and go up against y'all if we got the right team. But in your heart of hearts, y'all knew y'all was coming to the Knicks. So whatever reason y'all chose to go over to Brooklyn to the Nets, God bless you. But, let us do our thing over here. And then we just put that to rest, of all that KD to New York stuff and what transpired. But Kevin, too, to your credit, you keep that lie alive by all of your comments, So today's show, I apologize. I just scrapped a lot of stuff that I was going to talk about because it just got into that debate. But next week, we're going to dive heavy into the free agency. There's a lot of stuff out there now, too, about who's going to be coming to the Knicks. So we got to just dive a little bit deeper into that. And then as we get closer to the draft, then we can try to lock in who that we really feel the Knicks are going to take and how they benefit us. So for this week, I just want to say, y'all have a nice weekend. And I see you next time. Peace.